Hello! Welcome to Free Will, Science, and Religion. I'm Chandler Klebs, and today I'm here with Jamie Soden, George Ortega, Anthony Bishop, David Joseph, Slattery, and Brad Stansell. So since we have some people who are relatively new here, it's probably good for us to start out by each shortly refuting free will, why free will is impossible. And then we'll move on to the topic of why it's the biggest thing ever to understand that free will is impossible. So I guess since I'm starting out the episode, I'll just start that basically determinism and indeterminism both cancel free will out because determinism, everything having a cause, means all your decisions are caused by something prior to before you were born or conceived, before even your parents existed. So you're not responsible for that. And indeterminism, complete randomness, meaning something could happen for no reason at all, you still are not in control of. So either way, you are not the first cause of your choices, your thoughts, your beliefs, your feelings, all of that. So you basically are a puppet, but some people can't accept it. And there's a dog. I hear a dog.
Yeah, dog in the background, yeah.
Okay, let's see. So who wants to go next at short refutation of free will?
George, you start off.
All right, I'm going to give one that's kind of like fairly uncommon. Basically, it depends on the most accepted definition of consciousness and the unconscious. And that is like consciousness is basically awareness. That's the most accepted general definition of consciousness in psychology. So what happens is like if consciousness is awareness and the unconscious also is like it's basically the part of the mind that we're not conscious of. Okay, so like it operates below the level of awareness. Okay, that's why they call it the unconscious. So here's the refutation. To make any kind of decision, we have to rely on data, on memories, on words we've remembered, concepts. We also have to rely on principles, like whether decision makes sense, whether it's moral, whether it's hedonic. And we also have to rely on processing. All right, these three ingredients. Now, obviously, since consciousness is only awareness, the data for making decisions has to reside in the unconscious. And like if the data is in the unconscious, then the principles by which we decide and the processes by which we decide must also reside in the unconscious. So essentially, when we decide anything, it's basically our unconscious making a decision, and then just like we become aware or conscious of what the decision is. So that's a good way to understand how absolutely nothing is up to our conscious, and therefore we have no free will.
Yeah, basically we don't get to choose which memories and desires that the unconscious feeds us. Yeah. So let's see who will go next.
David?
Yeah, sure, I can go next. My argument would be that we're all influenced by our environment. We have a mountain of evidence that shows that we behave in accordance with our environmental conditioning. So that's pretty much my argument, short and sweet.
Yeah. Okay. How about Brad next?
I don't know. It's to me, it's always been a scary thought that we don't have free will, but I do have to acknowledge the fact that I guess I would say it's not impossible, but it's more of a redefinition of what we think of as free will. A lot. I mean, I'd say 99.99% of our decisions are. You can everything can be traced back to something. So I mean, there's that. But like I said, it's a scary thought. But I do like to think that there is an element of us in our decision-making process. I mean, what we are, that can be redefined as a product of our previous experience. But then again, yeah, there is the universe as a whole. But then again, you have to examine the fact that being part of that unit, that universe, we can't really understand all of it at the same time. So I would say, I mean, I guess free will, I personally think of as a subset of those consequences. I don't know.
All right,
So
Brad,
really
Yeah.
not motivation, I would say, motivation, but yeah, definitely a product of what we have experienced, what the universe has come to be and before us in a linear progression, if we want to
Yeah.
think of it like that.
So you think it's a little scary.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, like, after we do the UK episode after this one, if you've got an hour and a half, we can do the third episode on that. The implications of, if we don't have a free will, why is it scary? What does that mean?
Yeah.
Well, it basically means that we do not exist. I mean, that's the way I think of it. We are what we can choose. So, I mean, do we in fact exist, or are we just are we Carl Sagan's interpretation that we are the universe trying to understand itself?
No,
So, I
I think
mean,
that's a great topic. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a very interesting one that definitely will take a whole separate podcast to talk about. Is there an
yeah,
actual we? Is there an actual us? And many people understand, they identify that their choices is what defines who they are. And so if you take away their choices, they have an identity crisis.
exactly, and that's the scary part of it. I mean, do we in fact exist, or are we just the universe trying to understand itself? I mean,
Yeah, that
I've been catching up with the past podcasts, so I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
you
definitely.
put me on the spotlight there, so I was just
Oh yeah,
trying to.
yeah. Well,
No, it's a
sorry.
great topic.
Yeah, but yeah, that's very good because that's related to what George and I often like to talk about. Okay, so let's see. I don't think Trick Slattery or Anthony Bishop or Jamie Soden has done theirs yet of their little refutations of free will.
I can go ahead if you want.
Sure.
Okay. Well, first I think we have to have a definition of free will, because everybody defines free will in certain ways, and I think there's a one way that we should be defining free will, that because it's a common intuition that people think that they could have done otherwise, like if given the exact same scenario again, that something could have changed, that they could have done otherwise. And in fact, there's a study on that kind of goes into how 76% of people think that people have free will, and this is in a deterministic universe, meaning entirely causal, that they both have free will and that they could have done otherwise. So it's a common intuition that people feel that they have this ability, and I think this is the ability that I like to focus on, because it's pretty much logically incoherent. It doesn't make sense on the logical scale, especially given causality, because it would imply that a cause can be both the cause of one event, and that exact same cause can be the cause of another event instead of that other event. So basically what that does is it creates a self-contradictory cause, and that self-contradiction makes it basically incoherent. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So as soon as we notice that, we're saying, okay, they're believing in something that is totally illogical. And then when you get into the whole idea of indeterminism, a causality, we say and this is why I define the definition as the ability to have of one's own accord done otherwise, because that of one's own accord is impossible with an acausal event. No, that acausal event couldn't happen based on somebody's ability, I guess. So it would just be something that came about, and they would have no control over that. So either way, you have this contradiction, this problem logically, and so that's why I don't believe in free will, because it's logically incoherent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
also law of thermodynamics thing where entropy cannot be reversed, so that also would disprove free will, wouldn't it?
I don't know much about that, what he's talking
Yeah,
about.
I'm sure on that. That's
Well, Trick Slattery would know one about, wouldn't you, Trick?
entropy being reversed, you said?
Yeah, entropy cannot be reversed because that's a violation of one of the laws of thermodynamics.
Yeah, entropy essentially is a causal process. So, like,
Right.
yeah.
Then you have to step into the realm of quantum mechanics. I mean, so I mean that's a whole different bird right there.
Brad, we've tried to handle that issue on previous podcasts too. But basically, what what I said and what Slattery said, that both causality and acausality, like, quantum mechanics, people throw in randomness or indeterminism to try to give us free will, but we're still not in control of it, so it's not of our own accord that we could have done otherwise anyway. So yeah, so quantum mechanics is sort of like, it doesn't, no matter what your interpretation, it still doesn't give you free will.
Right. Yeah, an event that doesn't have a cause to it means that we can't be the willer of that event. So it would be an event that would just pop into existence, have an effect on us, maybe, perhaps, but it would be something that would be totally out of our control, just like any other event that extends to our past before we're even born. So either way, we're always referring back to an event that we don't have any control over, regardless if it's a causal event that happened even before we were born, or if it's an acausal event, meaning a non-caused event that happens while we're still in existence and it happens to influence us in some way.
Yeah, so to sum it up, it can a choice could be free or it could be willed, but it can't be both.
Right.
Yeah, okay, let's see. We need to hear from Jamie Soden and Anthony Bishop. So which of you guys want to go next?
I don't really have anything to say. I've already said something about the, laws of entropy and stuff. I don't know. I don't have anything else yet. So, you want to carry on?
Yeah, sure. There's only so much that can be said too, so you probably would have to repeat our points we made. So, but we'll hear from Anthony Bishop if he has anything to say.
Yeah, but his mic's not working. That's the thing.
That's too bad. His mic's not working. Okay,
right.
So we won't get to hear what Anthony Bishop has to say in this episode. So there was one more thing I wanted to say in relation to what we had just been talking about. Is I kind of said this thing on Facebook a while ago. I said, the living have no freedom and the dead have no will. And what I meant by that was basically, as long as you're alive, you are subject to the causality in the physical world, your biology, all your experiences with the physical body, all of that. And you're not free from that until you're dead. And so one thing is that, and of course I believe that the dead have no will, the dead are no longer at all, but you would have to have a spirit, soul, sort of thing to be free from biology, but even that wouldn't give you freedom from the prior causes that make you do what you do. So even if you throw in, our decisions are spiritual rather than physical, that still doesn't give you making a choice that has nothing to do with prior causes that you're still in control of.
All right, so let's get into this Searle quote. So basically, the idea is like Susan Blackmore, a British psychologist, was interviewing a lot of quote unquote big thinkers on consciousness. There's a book. The book was titled Conversations on Consciousness. It was published in 2005, and John Searle is an eminent, American philosopher. He's listed number 13th, 14th. In this, it was basically a survey done from the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. Basically, somebody determined that he was quoted or cited, more times than all but 12 or 13 other people of philosophers who were born after 1900. So he's a pretty well-known philosopher. And so basically, he said, and I'm quoting again, for free will to be acknowledged and understood by our world as an illusion would be a bigger revolution in our thinking than Einstein or Copernicus or Galileo or.
Oh, hey, I don't hear George anymore. What's going on?
Did we
Oh,
lose
hello.
you?
Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Because he was quoting John Searle's quote, but then I don't hear him anymore.
Me neither.
That's kind of weird. So we might be having some technical difficulty. Oh yeah, it says George is busy. So that was.
Right, I'm back. Yeah, I'm back now as well.
Maybe you got another call.
Okay, yeah. Now we can hear Anthony Bishop, but we can't hear George. Yeah, see, this is just an example of all the things that happen outside of our control.
Yeah, just blame God and stuff. That's all you need to do.
Yeah, you can,
Everybody
blame
blames him.
blame God, the universe, or your internet connection, or whatever.
Or my two
ISP.
brothers or something.
That's kind of weird. Well, anyway, okay, so I guess we'll try to move on until George rejoins us or whatever. But yeah, anyway, why it's the biggest thing ever. The understanding that free will is an illusion. As part of it is, I think what Brad said is very important. Is that people identify themselves, their selves, who they are, with the choices they make. And but if they start realizing that the choices they make are determined by prior causes, including, the biology they got, which sperm met the egg, what people did before they existed, all that, and then all of a sudden they realize, wait, who I am is defined by everything that existed before I did, so there's no me anymore. And so it does change your relation to the universe, because then it's like, dude, I am one with the universe. We all are, Let's see. George, are you back?
Yeah, I have no idea what happened.
Oh yeah, you just missed a lot about why I was, because after your audio cut out, I was explaining how this no free will understanding changes our relation to the universe. We're all one with the universe because we realize there's nothing that's us that wasn't already part of the universe, that wasn't already part of other people, other plants, other animals, and so there's this oneness, this awesome oneness that, the Hindus have it, the Buddhists have it, the Jains sort of have this idea. It's sort of that kind of thing, and that always appealed to me. But I get that scientifically, understanding that physically, I am the matter that already existed. There's no new me that began to exist at conception.
All right, but the question is, why did he say that it's a bigger revolution in our thinking, essentially, than any other revolution in the past? Because that's why he listed Einstein and Newton and the big scientists. So, Trick, why do you think he said that?
Because it affects so many things that we think, say, and do. Basically, if everybody just all of a sudden thought we didn't have free will, if they understood the fact that we didn't have it and understood why and all that, there's so many benefits to it. I don't necessarily think he particularly might have thought that it was a beneficial thing or not. Searle, I'm talking about. But
Searle actually believes in free will, so yeah.
So Searle, he's right in that aspect. He's right. He's absolutely correct that it would change everything, but he's not correct in his position on free will.
Well, obviously.
So there's kind of and that kind of says a lot. It says a lot to the problems that we have that we can't even get somebody that understands the importance of this topic to understand that free will doesn't exist. But
right.
But that's a digression.
No, but Trick, it says a lot because, like, if he didn't believe in free will, then I don't think that the statement would have as much weight.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That is true. But he's right because of the whole our whole concept of blame, our whole concept of deserve, our whole concept of how we think about other people. If they've done something and does it anger us? Why does it anger us? Do we think that they could have done otherwise? So all these things kind of play into our mentality, and once everybody understands that we don't have free will, if that happens, those mentalities change, and along with that comes a whole new society, basically.
Cool. Brad, what's your take on this? Why do you think it's bigger than Newton, bigger than Copernicus, all those guys, bigger than Darwin?
I don't know if it would be bigger. I think it's a misunderstanding of what we have defined as the concept of self, the concept of free will. I think it's not like Chandler said. I don't think it's really so much like he said. There's no new matter. There's no new thing that really defines us that's been created since the creation of the universe. What I think it's more, what I like to believe anyway, is more, it's kind of a reorganization of that matter that it, I mean, it brings back, I mean, I hate to go back to it, but quantum mechanics, it's kind of a random organization of, it's a pattern of thinking. It's a pattern of us, who we are, is a reorganization of what was before. And it's more just a new way of examining, I guess, the universe, that we all come into being as a different pattern of thinking. I mean, our experiences are the matter within us, the energy. It's all a unique kind of pattern, and without knowing, you know, the catalyst that started everything, you really can't. We have no hope of understanding it all. So I don't think it would really be a revelation per se. I don't think it would change everything, because I mean, people would still attempt to understand the universe around them. I mean, even if we didn't have free will, I mean, what we think of as free will would still motivate us to try to understand the world. I mean, I don't think it would really change everything per se. I think it would just be, I guess, more of a new religion per se.
Well, let me take a stab at it. Basically,
sorry.
basically, for example, with Einstein. Okay, Einstein, E equals mc squared, general relativity, special relativity. It had a major effect on our physics. It had some effect on our understanding in terms of like the twin paradox and like, you know, time being relative and all. It just like messed with our view of reality, but not into the real world. In other words, like the twin paradox and the strange things that in Einstein's relativity had to do with like traveling at near the speed of light and all right? So essentially, Einstein's revolution was pretty much technological. It allowed for quantum mechanics, and now all this like this technological revolution we're experiencing now. You go with Darwin, all right, basically he, you know, I think it was major. I think, you know, before Darwin, people believed that we were, you know, made from a clump of clay, and the first woman was pulled out of the first man. You got to understand, people actually believe that. 50% of people still believe this. So fine. So like he challenged us to understand that we evolved from lower life forms, you know, from apes and then ultimately from, you know, single cells and all. So that changed the view of who we were. Then we've got like Copernicus and Galileo who demonstrated, no, we're not the center of the universe. You know, the sun, we revolve around the sun, you know, and so basically, you know, these guys, and then Newton, of course, was the laws of nature, physics, all right? So the difference between all those things and what we're doing is basically our entire world is completely diluted regarding who we are as human beings. You know, almost everyone believes that things are up to us. We make decisions of our free will. What is that noise in the background?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. So anyway, so like,
Yeah.
you know, people believe that things are up to us, you know, that we make choices that are up to us, and the exact opposite. In other words, absolutely, you know, Brad, what you were saying before, yes, it's surreal. We're puppets, we're robots, absolutely nothing is up to us. So it couldn't change more fundamentally our understanding of who we are as human species. You know, that's why I think it's so major. It's like, you know, it would change our whole conception of who we are, not just who we are, but as Trick was saying before, of how we treat each other, of how we treat ourselves. The implications of this on our criminal justice system, on our religious systems, on our economic systems would be more vast, more profound, and world-changing than I think any other, you know, major change.
And it'll be a major change to the educational systems as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dave,
Well, I just wanted to say that the benefits of this understanding are all positive. Like there's really no negative um, problems with this understanding. Like, and some people think that you have to keep believing in free will to maintain a society, and that's not true at all. Because sure, it changes some things, but it doesn't change the basic things that we already experience. You know, love, empathy, happiness, all the good things that we value. That still stays without a free will. It's not required.
Well, Chandler, for us, you're right, but like for most of the, let's say most of Americans, 80, 90% of Americans that believe in a higher power or God, they're now confronted with the understanding that, God cannot be all good, cannot be omnibenevolent. If we don't have a free will, we have to perhaps blame God for the evil that we do. So
Yeah, I think you're right, George. That means that kind of caused them to be resistant to that idea. Of course, if they read their Bible, they would know God's not all good. But that aside, I mean, seriously, yeah. So, and I guess it's because people are taught that they need to blame somebody. And you know what? Here's the one thing is, even if people do get mad at God and blame God, which they can't because God can't have a free will either. Um, well,
Right.
what good is it going to do to blame God? I realize, hey, that doesn't really help anything.
we only have about like 3 minutes left. David, what's your take on Searle's statement? Why do you think he said this was the biggest revolution ever?
Well, I'm not sure about him, but for me, it would be the fact that it would change everyone's position on blaming people, and it would become more of like a compassionate view of people. So we try to focus on what made them, carry out a crime or some kind of other aberrant behaviour.
Or if it did something stupid, like smashed your window or something like that,
Right, yeah. So you wouldn't just instantly blame the guy and advocate some kind of punishment. You would try to figure out why that person carried out that act.
You would try to find some preventative measures by, preventing them from, doing that same thing again. Like if someone breaks a window, you call the police and try to have them, separated from you.
Right,
So
yeah. You tackle
that transition. Doesn't that transition into the realm of prediction more than understanding? I mean, I think what he said. I think he said it pretty much because he was deluded. I mean, for all intents and purposes,
but he did
it
believe
wouldn't
in
really
free will.
change anything. I mean, I always tell my friends it's God. Even God can't change that 1 + 1 is 2. I mean, it wouldn't change a lot of what we do. I mean, even the lack of responsibility is in essence the same as just being able to blame God or an omniscient, all-present, all-responsible being, as saying, "Hey, it wasn't my fault." I mean, that just because wouldn't that give you motivation to do something? Saying if you knew that you could just say, "Hey, it wasn't my fault. I was predetermined to do it."
I think we need to get into this other topic of blameworthiness and deserve and things like that, because that's like a topic on itself. So I think maybe at the next podcast or something, maybe we can focus on that.
We're actually almost at our 31-minute mark, so we really need to end this podcast and start a different one.
Could I quickly say something? Like, if God did exist, he would have helped all these children in Africa, wouldn't he? I mean, he would have compassion for them and save their lives rather than letting them starvation and stuff.
Yeah, or he can't be all good. Anthony, it's great you're on the call. Great your mic's
Cheers,
working.
thank you.
Yeah, we should probably
manage to get my mic fixed.
Yeah, but we'll probably need to end this one and start a new one because we're past 31 minutes and I'll have to do some editing out of extra silence and stuff.
Chandler, no, if it goes 31, 32, that's fine. Because we're setting the limits ourselves.
Well, yeah, I guess there's not really a limit.
Are we?
I just kind of a thing. I like it to be 30 minutes or under, and part of that,
No, don't cut any. Yeah, at this point, like maybe when we get onto blog radio or something, if we have like limits imposed upon us, but like don't cut anything out if you can now, right?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So did you guys want to go along with this one, or did you want to?
No, let's end it because let's do the UK one.
Okay. Well, you've been listening to Free Will, Science, and Religion, and each of us on this call has been able to say what we think about why free will is impossible and how much of a difference it makes or not. So we'll talk more in future episodes. Bye.
And why it's the biggest thing ever.
Yeah, why it's the biggest thing ever. Thanks, George.
All right.
Okay, bye.